Hello, welcome to Old Guard New Blood, Majestic episode 19. And today we're going to talk about site performance and how site performance affects search engine optimization. And once again, I've got a great crowd. We've got on the Old Guard, I reckon, is Jon and Jon and Lukasz, and on the New Blood is Pam. Who's changing her name as I speak, I think. So So why don't we start off with you, Pam? Who are you and where do you come from? And thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I am, please be kind as the new blood. I'm not here to chum the waters per se. But,
no. We like the new blood to really rip the old guard apart. Basically, anything that we say, disagreeing with us because you've got new ideas is absolutely great. Because
okay, not sure whether that'll happen or not, but we shall see. So I'm Pam Aungst Cronin of Pam Ann Marketing and Stealth Search and Analytics. We specialize in both companies specialize in the same four things: SEO, PPC, analytics, and WordPress. With Pam Ann Marketing, we work directly with clients, and with Stealth, we work under the radar of other agencies on a reseller basis.
Oh, cool. Excellent. And Lukasz, tell us all about SEO.London. Who are you? Where you come from?
Hi, Lukasz Zelezny. I was working for around 15 years in London in various companies, and a couple of years ago, what was my hobby and side business, I decided to make my main business. So I have SEO.London, which is my consultancy business, and and I think quite cool domain.
Excellent. And I see you're going on there with adverts on your chest, which I kind of very much approve of. This is a Majestic sponsored event, but other brands may show themselves off. Jon, how are you, mate? A long time no see.
It's been a long time, although I've seen you a lot over the years.
But COVID has taken us too far apart, So tell us about yourself and where you come from, Jon.
Okay, I'm Jon Henshaw, and I am a co-founder of Raven Tools, which was sold in 2017, and been doing this stuff for a long time. I guess that's why I'm the old guard. And today I am an SEO lead at Viacom CBS, and then in my spare time for fun, my digital playground is Coywolf at coywolf.com, and that's about it. I just eat and breathe SEO. I never get tired of it for some weird reason.
We loved Raven Tools at Majestic, not least because you use our data. So thank you very much for that.
That's right.
And over the years gave us a lot of cash, actually. So thank you very much.
And great T-shirts. I still have the one that says "I'm a social tool." Everybody always
that's great. That's a favorite. Yeah, these. Wow. Okay, so this is gonna be a nostalgic time.
Absolutely. So thanks so much, very much to everyone for coming on. Just before we jump to the questions, in case I've missed anything out, let me introduce my producer, David. Where are you?
I am right here, Dixon. How you doing?
I'm fine. Have I missed anything out?
No, not at all. I just want to tell the listener or viewer that obviously we're broadcasting live at the moment. We are available on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts as well. So please subscribe there if you want to catch up with all previous episodes as well. If you want to watch a future episode live, please go to majestic.com/webinars and sign up there.
Excellent. Thanks very much, and thanks to the Majestic for sponsoring the event as usual. So guys, we're all talking about site performance SEO or SEO and its effect on, or site performance effect on SEO. So I was going to start with, one tip. If people haven't got time to get through the whole video, what one thing do you think is very, very important? So Lukasz, why don't I start with you? What's one tip, one takeaway that people can take from the top of the show for site performance?
I think the easiest to implement would be, from my end, recommendation of usage of the WebP file format as the main format for images. So, most of the time people are still using JPEG. They may not perform that well. WebP are giving a better amalgamation with what Google expect us regarding to the performance, and you may see often error in the page speed insights that if website is not using properly compressed images or properly formatted images, then the WebP is an answer.
Okay, that's a great tip. I'm going to come back to that because, that's easier said than done sometimes. So, okay, we'll come back to that one. John, what about you?
There's no such thing as one tip, but I'll try.
Yeah, okay, we're not allowed to do it depends on this show. I should have said that.
So, what I really want to talk about are all the things you should be doing to your site. But since I only get to choose sort of one, I would say that people are going to find immediate performance gains simply by using a good caching system like WP Rocket, and then also leveraging that with Cloudflare. If I can combine those two things into one tip, that would be the place I would start to get something immediate. But there's so much more you have to do, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we will. No, I just wanted to give everyone one, so and then I'll allow you to call that one, even though that's two, that we can have a conversation about both of those. That's all right. That's all right, John. I like to be, a kind host, really. Pam, what about one for you?
Well, John stole my WP Rocket answer, so I'll just go higher level. I was also thinking of saying, like, before getting deep into the technical weeds, just high level, my number one tip would be don't spend too much time debating the importance of this or trying to figure out how much of an improvement you're going to get if you put the time into it. Site performance is important for both of your audiences, your humans and your search engine robots. Just do it.
That's a good bit of advice. Just do it, and even without swearing, which that's the modern way from the youngsters, really. So no word in the middle of there, so that's great.
I'm glad you guys think I'm so young.
So, what is? I'm going to start. I'm going to start with this one. What is to a person that hasn't spent years in SEO? What counts as site performance? Is it just site speed? Is it about UX? Is it about how you go through the site? Or is it basically just site speed? Pam, why don't you go with that?
I would say all of the above. I think at first it was construed to be just site speed back, when Google first started talking about how speed matters. But now, especially with the Core Web Vitals, and really all along, it's been how well does your site perform? People are like, oh my gosh, these Core Web Vitals, this is so hard to tend to, blah, blah, blah. And then and what even are they? And then when I explain what it is, they're like, oh yeah, I hate when I go on a site and it does that. I immediately leave. I'm like, well, there you go. So it's the experience, which is comprised of both speed and usability.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Anyone else want to add anything to that, or are you just going to go with what Pam says there?
Well, I would go ahead, Lukasz.
No, I just wanted to say I agree.
I want to say I agree also, but I want to add something to it. And that is that if you look at what Google has been doing over the years, it's all around just general user experience. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that the sites that they're recommending in the search results are going to have the highest level of engagement. That's why it matters whether or not somebody comes in and then they have to wait for something, or it's a bunch of pop-ups. And because what you're going to end up having is people bouncing back out and going elsewhere. Google cares about delivering, at least from the organic experience, the best pages possible with the best user experience. And they're using things like Core Web Vitals to leverage that, to basically force sites and publishers into doing this. It's their way of doing it. It's why they say there's a ranking component to it. And so that's sort of what I wanted to add to that.
So can I throw a spanner in the works and just come back at you and ask then, guys, does that mean that really good, interactive, engaging content then gets a real hit because it takes a while to load up this stuff, and so it may be that the best content doesn't actually get seen in the search results because it's too engaging, and that involves a complicated web page that might require people clicking on things. Is that just a fact of life, or do you have to have some gateway pages into that interactive content to keep things fast? I'll throw that through to John, but anyone else can jump in.
Sure. I think that what you're describing is like an online game or something. I don't think that's typical content. I think that the type of content that most people consume It's either going to be text or video, and so you should never have an experience where you get to a page and you're just waiting for it to load. I mean, the whole point is to not go back to the Flash site days. The whole point is that you can immediately engage in something. And if you do have a site where the content, the experience that you want the visitor to have is something that takes a while to load or whatever it might be, then yes, in that particular case, which I would consider to be an edge case, but in that case, I would do something so that at least from the core Web Vitals perspective, something loads immediately, and then you can lead them into that experience.
Okay, good. Because I'm thinking of things like, maybe surveys, because everybody loves a good survey. Well, they did when I was watching at school, as everyone kind of looked at the magazines and then went through the do I look cool on Saturday night kind of.
But a survey should be instant. I mean it should be a survey. Right. If we're thinking SEO, should actually if you want that first page, that first component of a survey to rank, if we're talking about visibility in Google, then you're probably going to want to make it like an article, and then have that first thing either below or have a call to action to start the survey.
Okay. Pam, you kind of look like you wanted to add something there.
I'm mulling over a thought that I'm trying to put into words. Basically, it's like, yes, poor page experience could hold back really great content, but there are 200 plus other things that could also do that. So you kind of have to do the best you can on every front. I wouldn't say that this is the only thing to worry about to hold back the ranking of great content. There's a whole bunch of things you can do to right or wrong or whatever, it's the mix of how you do with everything. I always explain SEO as a game. You're earning as many points as you can to beat your competitor, and you have to do it with a whole bunch of different cards in your deck, to play whatever you can play. So anyway, that's just the best I could put that thought together. Something along
Magic the Gathering, Pam Magic the Gathering Cronin. There we're gonna.
There you go.
I get it.
Something along those lines is what I was thinking.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Lukasz. How do you measure it? I mean, what's your favorite tools for measuring site performance then?
I am using URL Profiler through APIs, and if I think this is enough, because that can give you a view on multiple of the URLs. So when I'm implementing something that impact significantly, like Jon said, Cloudflare, for example, I don't need to measure on the impact on few URLs. I'm just going through the whole website very often. And this is pretty much how I'm measuring this. However, I just wanted to say one thing about all this concept, because Jon, you sounds like you are very pro Web Vitals, and I feel very often that it's a kind of a hype development that we're experiencing. Guys, from one side, we are in the 5G era. We have the fastest internet that we ever had, and we are faffing with image compressions and CSS compressions and JS compressions, and we are looking on this kind of indicators. This is stupid. I feel sometimes, as an SEO, if you're looking on the broader view, then the amount of money that's been spent in the last 2 years on page speed optimization and the outcome that came from this, very often it's a chasing of the indicators, chasing of the metrics, chasing of the color of the bubbles. Like some people are chasing religiously Yoast, and they thinking that if they will have everything green, then they need to rank. It's not like that. So I am a moderately skeptic about everything. I see this other side of the coin, but if you're asking me, because I know that there is other side of the coin, but there is also dance because Google is playing, like one of our colleague wrote about AMPs, Barry, dance because Google is playing. So I'm dancing.
That's his pet hate, isn't it?
I have URL Profiler, I have APIs, and I'm going through my WordPress websites or non-WordPress website. It's like, average ranking, average page speed right now is that much. And then I'm implementing WP Rocket and Cloudflare oh, now by average, it went that much up.
So it's true. I have a slightly different view of this. And the way I would put it would be that we wouldn't have the majority of changes that we've had that have made the web better if it hadn't been for Google implementing all of these things. And so, for example, we likely wouldn't have as many mobile-friendly sites as we have now. We likely wouldn't have most sites being secure. And in regards to page experience and even down to core web vitals, these are all initiatives to sort of like push and force the industry to be able to improve the user experience overall, which goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is Google needs a way, a mechanism to be able to know that the sites that they're recommending are going to be a halfway decent user experience. And so they're using these instruments to do that. I think that people can get lost in the scores and stuff like that, like Lukasz is saying, and it kind of gets a little silly to do that. But there's an entire like history of Google doing this and I would say like before Core Web Vitals and the page experience stuff in general, we had AMP. AMP was probably the worst version of Google trying to force an industry to behave a certain way, for that user experience to be a certain way. But it was the worst example, and they know that, and they've changed how AMP is done. And I actually am a proponent of AMP now, as opposed to an opponent, which I was before, because of them detaching it from top stories, because they are now making it so that things are true components that anybody can add through their Bento initiative. But in regards to the fact that page experience, Lighthouse exists, the Core Web Vital scores exist, I see it as a positive. I see it as a good thing. I see it as a way to sort of like navigate us towards a way where we can make our user experience better for our visitors, and we can benefit from it in Google search.
Okay, I just want to come into to our users here, just for anyone in the audience that doesn't know. Core Web Vitals is a platform in Google Search Console, and Lighthouse is a platform in Chrome that you can use. That's in there. So just wanted to, sometimes we get carried away with 3-letter abbreviations and running off in our worlds. And I'm very aware when I go into a different audience or different world, and I'm the listener, when people start banding about 3-letter TLAs, 3-letter abbreviations that I don't know, then I kind of panic. Pam, any other tools that you like for site performance, measuring site performance? You probably need to go off mute.
Yeah, as if I don't do that 10 times a day, you'd think I'd learn. So I just want to quickly echo what was being said on both fronts just now. It is kind of stupid in a way that Google's holding us up to a standard of, Lighthouse uses a 3G 1.6 megabit per second connection emulation. Like, that's kind of ridiculous. On the flip side, though, I do think it's a good thing that they're setting these standards for the industry, as Jon just said. So it's like, as with everything in life, a middle of the road approach is probably best. To go to one extreme and not do anything about it, not good. To go to the other extreme and obsess over every little score, probably not good either. So anyway, just wanted to echo both of those points. As far as tools go, of course, Page Speed Insights, which is what shows you the Core Web Vitals and the Lighthouse scores in one place. Also, of course, you can see that data in Search Console. But for a quick, especially for clients to understand easily, for a quick like red, yellow, green kind of a measurement, I like Page Speed Insights, and it's Google, so it's kind of straight from the horse's mouth. It doesn't really matter if the way they calculate those scores is ridiculous or not. We have to march to the tune of that drum anyway. Like you're saying, we have to dance anyway because they said dance. So we usually start with Page Speed Insights, but also GT Metrics is excellent, and webpagetest.org is excellent as well. We definitely go to those for digging deeper.
I do want to say that while the 3G sounds ridiculous to us, because I'm assuming that we all have broadband and we spend most of our time on desktop, I think the reasoning behind that is because most searches are done, at least on Google search, on mobile devices, and the majority of searches are probably not from us with really fast internet connections. So, I mean, I think there's validity to them making that sort of a baseline. It's just that we don't experience that, but I think we might be in the minority, and that's probably why they do that. I think for other
That's fair.
countries,
That's definitely fair. Yeah. And they're just setting the bar high because it's hard enough to drag people to do something. So they set the bar high and, get as close as you can.
Maybe it's just me, but I can't use the internet on 3G. I mean, just just getting Google search results in the first place on the screen just takes too long for me. So
right, they should.
Google itself needs to approve if they think that we're going to carry on with 3G.
Exactly.
Now I get that that's not the same the whole world over, and as soon as you go out of the cities of America, you got exactly the same problem anyway, quite a lot of the time. So certainly in the wilds of Wales, when I go into the Welsh mountains, 3G is good, but it's not the same as 4G. So there's a way to go.
I want to also say something about the tools, which is all the tools that were mentioned are really good, and I have used them. Of course, I mean, I think we're aware that Google has its own tools built right into Chrome and so on. But the point I want to make was at the end of the day, the only scores that actually matter in regards to this are what shows up in Google Search Console, because they're using crux data, which is real data from real users. And that's actually what they use in regards to how they might rank something. And so we use the tools that were already discussed previously to help troubleshoot and improve our sites. But what really matters is whether you have good or yellow warning, whatever they call it, or red. And so we're going for green or good in Google Search Console. Everything else is just for development, is for improvement.
Sure. I mean, I'll just add Sitebulb into the mix, just because I can sit there and just do a whole load of web pages and have a look at the individual pages and get them all done in there as well. He's not paying me, but
maybe you will after this.
But for me, mostly I'll use Lighthouse as well, because I just it's easy, it's there. I don't have to log into anything. I can just do it from Chrome. Okay, I want to go back to this images thing, because clearly, when you've got unoptimized images, that can be the slowest way of loading your page, and it's a simple thing for a lot of SEOs to fix. But only if you know what you're doing. And you mentioned the WebP format, or Lukasz, which is, I'll be honest, not one I use. But anyway, it can be fiddly. If you're a WordPress user and you're not a sort of technical SEO and stuff, it can be a bit fiddly just trying to suddenly make those images web optimized. How do you go about that? Well, firstly, Lukasz, how do you put something into a WebH format? How do you put that?
Yeah, so there is a plenty of conversion tools, and the most manual thing I can even think about, and it happens sometimes to me, it is just take all the folder with media, no matter what CMS this is. Just copy this on your local machine, take some compressor, compress this, and then send back to developers and let them to replace that. This is the super manual process if the developers don't understand the thing. For WordPress, the pain is buried under plugins. There are plugins for everything. There is a plugin for that. It's, for example, Short Pixel. Short Pixel is an API-based plugin that on their infrastructure, image will be compressed, converted into WebP, and sent back to your server, and job done. And you can have this also on the fly. So during the life cycle of the website will be converting. This is great, because you just forgetting about this. You shouldn't think as a business owner or even as a manager about this kind of super nitty-gritty stuff. It should be kind of semi-automated or automated.
It's good that there's lots of WordPress plugins that do, automate all of that, the compression for you. But on the other side of optimization, isn't there a really good argument for the less plugins you have in WordPress, the faster your site is? So which is it to be?
That's true, but I wanted to mention this is almost the same, like, all the CSS, JS must be compressed, and finally you ending with this one last one, which is surprise, Google Analytics JS code, which is never compressed and minified. Google wouldn't compress, or like I love this cumulative layout shift, which always hits me in Gmail, always in Gmail.
Google Images every
oh my
day.
gosh, you are about to click and everything is shifting up, and I'm
you're mad. God, maybe they should employ a UX company.
They should hire me. They should hire me. I always would love to see Google.com in Search Console. How many impressions Google have in Google? But anyway, Dixon, you're absolutely right. The plugins can be absolutely killer. That's why I'm not saying that plugins are ultimate remedy for any problem. They need to be used wisely. Sometimes plugin can be used only for a moment to do the job and then remove it because you don't need this anymore. Less plugins always better. However, we need to remember that if we will be that kind of, how to say this, if we will go too far, we may end up with the website that Warren Buffett have. Have you seen Warren Buffett website?
Classic. He's not done badly.
He's done not badly. No CSS, no JS, nothing. Plain text. The fastest website on the internet.
Yeah, if you can find Barclays, the Barclay website, David, and put it in the comments, then that'd be great. It's an absolutely terrible website, but it's probably quite quick. It's really 1990 something. Pam, what do you use to compress images?
I use Imagify, which is made by the same company as WP Rocket, and it works in similar ways the other image plugins we just mentioned. But the big benefit that I see with Imagify is that it integrates directly with WP Rocket to cache the WebP versions of the images. And it's also pretty good at serving up the old-fashioned style images, the JPEGs, when a browser doesn't support it. So that fallback and the integration with the caching in WP Rocket makes Imagify my go-to.
That's good. That's a good tip, John.
Yeah, I don't use any plugins.
I thought you were going to say I don't use any images.
I have no images whatsoever. When I used to use pings and JPEGs, and I still use JPEGs sometimes, I would use Image Optim. Actually, I would optimize the output using an image editor called Pixelmator Pro, which is Mac only. And I'd use an app called Image Optim for my pings, and that would reduce it. But what I do now, I mainly just use WebP now, which is can get you in trouble if somebody's using a really old browser on a corporate computer or something like that. But my audience, for the stuff I write and for my sites, it's generally everybody's up to date. And so I use WebP. Pixelmator Pro is one of the only good image editing apps out there that actually will output to WebP and allow you to control the actual optimization for the compression for that. But you actually don't need all that. You can actually continue to use JPEGs and pings like you always have, and then just use Cloudflare's polish feature, which will automatically optimize and serve WebP images instead of your pings and JPEGs when it knows that the browser that connects to your site supports it. And so
there's another excellent point in there too, which is even if you are using WebP, you still shouldn't be uploading a 4,000 pixel wide image into a 40 pixel wide spot. You still have to do.
Well, that's not a great idea. I agree.
Image
that
optimization.
You might want to resize that. For sure.
Yeah, and Luke's solution of locally compressing all the files, they won't know what size they're going to be. So that's another challenge. I like the idea of bringing it down local, and then you don't have any mess up there, but it doesn't resize the image for you. So
that doesn't. Yeah, that's true. That doesn't resize. And if there is the situation that you have only 40 pixels, then in that case, I'm always loading anim GIF, Bob the Builder under construction. Website under construction.
It doesn't even matter if it makes sense. That's what you're uploading. It's Bob the Builder.
I mean, guys, let's be honest. Everyone is talking about JPEG, PNG, and WebP. What are GIFs? What are GIFs?
They do rule the internet now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your favorite ever meme.
I want to see those scrolling marquees come back. I'm looking at that Warren Buffett website. I'm cracking up.
So you know what?
I just expect to see the marquee and the GeoCities counter at the bottom.
So anyone on Spotify We're looking at BerkshireHathaway.com, and well worth a look if you really want to get some modern insights into UX. Anyway, you talked about Cloudflare, John. So let's move on to CDNs, and I'll start with the basic question for anyone that hasn't used a CDN before, like Cloudflare or CloudFront or Amazon have one. I can't remember what it's called. Why are they good? Why are they good? Pam, why do you go? Why are CDNs good?
All right, so CDN stands for Content Delivery Network, and it's based on the principle that there really actually isn't a such thing as the cloud. Like the internet is not in the sky. It's actually a network of computers, physical boxes with wires that are connected to each other. And there's some wireless stuff in there, but in essence, it does matter if your website is hosted on a server in California and most of your clients are coming from New Jersey or the other side of the globe. So that latency, the delay that's caused by the physical distance is rectified by a content delivery network, which is a network of computers that hosts copies of your website. Think of it like a photocopier that makes a stack of copies and leaves them in all different places. And so it's easy for whoever wants to visit your website to go to the server closest to them and get a copy of it instead of having to send a request to the server halfway across the globe.
So I mean, so the good side of that is that then you've got your stuff mirrored all over the globe, I guess. But the downside of that, and so it's cached. But the downside of that then surely is if you're going to change some stuff, it may not upload onto the person's computer at the other end. Is that right, Lukasz?
Yes. Every time I make a change on my website, because I have hosting level caching, I have WP Rocket caching, and then I have Cloudflare doing caching as well. So every time I make a change, I have to clear cache in 3 different places. And then if I need to make another minor change, clear again. So yes, it does not come without downsides.
Yeah, so I can only echo that. I am using religiously WP Engine as my hosting provider, and I love these guys. They are amazing. And obviously, but I still use Cloudflare, and I still use I think pretty much that they have also some kind of built-in caching system, and it's always like I prefer to put like parameter ? Refresh just to see the change. That's one thing. And John probably.
So what's that tip, Lukasz? What do you do?
I just add a random parameter ? And just a random characters
on the URL.
Yeah, on the URL.
All the files.
Because my caching is working with exclusion of the parameters, so I'm not caching parameters. Yeah, and that is forcing kind of browser to take things from the website, and then I don't care if people refresh this or not. It will eventually on some point refresh. So I don't worry about this. But I wanted to mention about one thing. Potentially, John will agree with me or maybe not. On Cloudflare, there is Argo. I love Argo. I always open like Argo. Argo is this kind of
what's
like
Argo? How do you spell Argo?
ARGO. Argo is on the business setup, and it is a special way to scale up the number of servers that are across different locations. So they are Cloudflare very proudly is telling that, we have that many locations here and there, and thanks to that, your website is accessible so fast. And this is great, but obviously for clients, it's very, very important to explain the difference between hosting and between a CDN, because some clients may be like, but we are already paying Kinsta or WP Engine, and it's like, no, this is something different.
Well, and it's confusing because some hosts do include their own CDN and others
don't. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, but there's another thing, isn't there, with CDNs that CDNs also act as firewalls, so they're blocking a lot of traffic, particularly. They love to block bot traffic, but I put it to you that as the world is getting much more app driven, much more driven by voice searches and Netflix suddenly doing search or crawling voice, all sorts of things, and Apple coming on, or image search, which is using a different crawl technology, is blocking the bots, holding back the chance of real users seeing your content? And should you use the default blocking, blocking that these CDNs in particular use? I'm not a fan of using them because they'll probably block Majestic for a start. But on top of that, I find that there are increasingly occasions where a human being may not see your content. If an RSS feed was trying to fetch it, for example, it might block it, and then it's not going to be in an RSS feed. You don't always have to have it on your website. What do anyone, John?
I've only had positive experience with Cloudflare and how it blocks bots. I think that if most bots that it probably does block are nefarious and they're up to no good. At least that's what I've seen with my own sites that I run through Cloudflare. The other thing is it's from a security perspective and fighting bad actors, I couldn't have done certain things without Cloudflare. For example, on one of my sites, Coywolf.news, there is a site in France that decided it would ping my site every minute, and it was trying to get the RSS feed, and then it would take it, then it would auto translate it into French and then republish it on its site. I was able to research, investigate, figure out exactly where it was coming from, and after pinpointing everything, block every possible way that it could actually get to my site. And in doing that, I'm sure I blocked some people from an ASN out of France. I'm sure that there was some poor experience or whatever, but to me, you're talking about like under 1%. You're talking about something that it's an insignificant amount of bad experiences from perhaps a real user versus somebody stealing and translating your content and trying to monetize your own content, or somebody coming in and using up the resources of your server. So I personally am pro CDN. Besides the fact,
I'm pro CDN. Don't get me wrong. I'm way pro.
No, you
CDN.
said you were against them, and you would. No.
I'm a happy user of Cloudflare. I do, and not least because I've had a number of sites. As soon as somebody decides to try and run a bot to try and break I've got WordFence to block the auto login kind of things, but as soon as that goes there, then you can quite quickly get.
I would assume that the Majestic bot is not considered a bad bot by Cloudflare.
No, I think one of the things that is interesting to me is that bad bots don't identify themselves as bots. That's the basic thing. You have to positively say that you are a bot for it to have in your user agent that you're a bot. One line of code you can use. You can use Screaming Frog, whatever, and be any bot that you want to be called. Just put your own user agent in there. So my bugbear really is that usually the bad bots pretend to be Firefox users or Chrome users or using. In fact, most of them are using headless Chrome now anyway. So it's the repetitive nature of the hitting that needs to kick in, and then that does need to be the case. Sorry, Pam, you were going to.
No, I was just going to say what you just said. It's then I would hope it would be catching the behavior.
Rather than the name, really, rather than the user agent. Yes, there we go. So anyway, right, okay. So CDN's good, and caching great. As long as you remember to purge things when you update your stuff if you want it to get live very quickly. Okay, great. What about shared hosting? Does it matter? Bad? How do I know? How do I know, Pam?
It's bad. It's cheap, but those shared hosting plans and companies are notorious for squishing, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of websites onto a single computer. And again, there is no such thing as the cloud. It's actually physical computers, and you can overtax them. And that's basically what happens. Also, there could be other malicious actors on that server with you, and you can, get penalized for their bad behavior. So thumbs down to shared hosting. How do you know if you're on shared hosting? You can obviously check your hosting bill, but there's a lot of other tools out there to check it for you. Some of them don't work so great. I'm actually looking for a new one. The one that I go to is who is hosting this, but
I'll answer the question, then I'll save John from coming in and answering it for me. But so Majestic's neighborhood checker is I think it's free. It's just and it will tell you domains that are on any host. So you can either put in an IP address or put in your own website in a list. Well, it'll list the first 100 or 200 domains that are on any website, and then tell you how many there actually are, and then how many links to all of those pages as well. So you've suddenly got an idea of how you're competing with resources, really. So it's kind of a plug for Majestic there, because got it.
I've literally made a note to check it out.
Well, no.
John, so I know you're gonna be surprised, but I have an opinion about this.
I love opinions. Okay, you're happy with shared hosting.
I mean, I don't have them, but I'll express one now. So I in real life scenarios, in regards to like clients, my own sites, that type of thing, I'm in total agreement with Pam on I wouldn't do a shared hosting environment. I would do something at the very least, something like WP Engine or Kinsta that's kind of been described before, just because of all of the features that you get with that, including backups and restores, and it just makes things better and easier. However, to throw in the it depends, I've had great success with shared hosting with things that I've tested, but with the caveat of it going through Cloudflare. So for example, we just talked about the IP being shared with perhaps bad actors, bad sites, whatever it might be. If you run it through Cloudflare, not only do you get all the things we've already discussed, but they're going to mask the IP. So, I mean, anything that's delivered via Cloudflare as a CNN isn't even going to use the IP address of what you're using on the shared hosting provider, in the same way that they also mask DNS IPs and DNS records. So it can work. And I've been practicing or playing around with IPFS, which is a whole other conversation, which is decentralized web. And I've been able to throw stuff on the decentralized web via IPFS, run it through Cloudflare, and it works as good as if I were hosting it at WP Engine or some other, say, dedicated hosting service.
And Cloudflare has a free option, doesn't it? So if you're spending, all of shared hosting prices, then you probably want the free version of Cloudflare.
Yeah. Oh, I take advantage of the free version of Cloudflare across the board. I definitely pay for it for certain sites, but it's there for a reason. And if you end up growing and you need more features, particularly like the Argo that Lukasz mentioned, then you're going to upgrade. That's why they have that there. I mean, they have it there for other reasons, but that's why the free account exists. And I'm a big proponent for it.
Put my tinfoil hat on and say, "Well, it's there for the CIA." Then. No. Sorry,
I was waiting for that.
Somebody had to come in there, really. So, okay, right, okay. Look, I want to finish up with how fast is good enough, because surely we started by saying that you don't need to obsess. Once at some point you don't need to obsess. There's other things to worry about. At some point, you've got to get this stuff good. So, is there a how fast is good enough kind of thing that we can take away at all? I don't know who wants to go in there. Lukasz, any thoughts?
I think whenever you passing the green message that is giving you that you're passing the Core Web Vital assessment, that's fine. You don't need to sculpture in this kind of, oh my gosh, 93, and yesterday I was 95. So what now? Oh my gosh, we need to start from scratch. We need to build new business. So
burn it all down.
Burn it down. Fire yourself. Close the company, and start from scratch. Yeah. So that's one thing. And observation of the Search Console, that's absolutely what I would echo, John. And as an off topic, I just wanted to get to the previous shared web hosting. I am using very often build with relation profiles. On build with, you can see what are the other websites they know about that are on the same IP number, and what are the other websites that are using the beginning of the Google Analytics code or Google Tag Manager or Hotjar. So you can see relation between websites on different level. One of these is IP number. So that's as an off topic.
So I think Nerdy Data does something similar to that as well, isn't it? It finds finds bits of snippets of code of and stuff. Yeah, so that's cool. Okay, John, do you want to anything to add on there, or
I agree with everything Lukasz just said on that. And
green light is all you need.
Well, yeah. Well, the only thing I would add would just be, after that looks good in regards to just what does Google think of my site, you still have sort of the thing that's always been there, which is you still need to look at your analytics and see where people are bouncing, what they're doing on your site. So you still have to at least analyze what visitors are doing on your site and make improvements there. But in regards to, I think the core part of this conversation, which is Google page experience, Core Web Vitals, making sure you're good, you're green for the majority of your pages, and GSCs that's kind of where you need to be.
So to keep people from bouncing and stuff, you want something like Hotjar or Microsoft Clarity, their new tool or something like that. But unfortunately, that involves JavaScript on a page, which slows the website.
Or your brain looking at analytics.
Brain,
that works too.
Did you want to jump in there, Pam?
That's a tool we can use. The brain.
What is that tool?
That's brilliant.
Or you copy Warren Buffett websites. That's the best way.
Right.
Really
is. Warren Buffett's website.
That's right, because he made
Just
money.
Do that.
So
Just do that.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. Before we go, I'll just ask people to get their last minute plugs for their own stuff. But David, what have we got coming up?
So coming up, we've got episode 20 next. That was episode 19 you've been listening to or watching. So episode 20 is going to be on the 1st of September. That is going to be on SEO for Shopify. We've already got Kevin Indig booked for that. So he heads up the SEO for Shopify. We'll have 2 more great knowledgeable SEOs on Shopify SEO on that one. And you'll see us streaming live at 5 p.m. BST, 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, it's called, isn't it? And just sign up at majestic.com/webinars for that.
That's great. I can't imagine we get a better person in the world than Kevin Indig for that particular topic. So that's great. So thank you very much. So it leaves it for me to say, guys, thank you very much for coming on. If people want to track you down, where do they find out more about you? Lukasz, I know it says on your site, on your thing, but not everybody's got the visuals.
here SEO.London. Remember, SEO.London, not SEO.London.com.net. No, .London. That's the top level domain.
Not London.SEO, SEO.London. Okay. Pam, where do they find you?
Anywhere on the web at Pam Ann Marketing, so PamAnnMarketing.com or like at Pam Ann Marketing on Twitter. Also stealthsearch.com for our reseller stuff.
That's brilliant. And John, are we allowed to find you, or are you going back undercover?
You're allowed to find me, I guess. I mean, yeah, I don't think I was hiding, but maybe I was. I'm on Twitter at Henshaw. And then if you want to follow the experiments and things I write about online, it's at Coywolf.com.
I tell you what, somebody is on the old guard when they've got a Twitter handle of at Henshaw. That's awesome. Very good. Guys, thank you ever so much for coming down. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you to the audience for listening today. And please come and join us again for the next session of Old Guard, New Blood. Bye-bye.